Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Aesthetic and Wellness Edge, the podcast where we dive into real stories and strategies from leaders in the aesthetics, health, and wellness space. I'm your host, Bethany Gifford, and after more than a decade in the industry, I now help practices uncover growth opportunities and scale smarter. Today's guest spent a decade running a successful med spa before personal health breakthrough changed the way he thought about care. His story is one every practice owner will want to hear, especially if you're curious about adding innovative wellness solutions into your practice. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by New Era Intel. At New Era Intel, we help medical spas, dermatology clinics, and plastic surgery practices who are struggling with inconsistent patient retention, underutilized CRM systems, and manual systems that hold back your clinic's growth potential so they can finally increase quality repeat bookings, streamline operations with AI automation, and grow predictable monthly revenue with the right systems and strategy. They're able to create a premium, seamless patient experience while freeing up their team to focus on what they do best. If you would like to take your business to the next level, head over to neweraintel.com to get started.
My guest today is Sirvontes Fernandes, who is based in Atlanta, Georgia. Through his journey, began in Florida, where he operated a thriving med spa for about 10 years. What makes his story remarkable is how personal experience with the breakthrough patch technology led him to integrate wellness into his practice and others. Today, he is passionate about helping other med spa owners expand beyond injectables and lasers, creating better outcomes for patients, stronger teams, and more resilient business. Cervantes, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Bethany. I really appreciate having us on the show.
Absolutely. We are so excited to have you here today. I'm going to start from the beginning and we'll just dive in from there. What inspired you guys to open your med spa originally, and what was that 10-year journey like?
So my sister-in-law is the one who introduced us to aesthetics, the med spa wellness world. At the time, I was actually a X-ray med tech at a trauma facility in the Naples, Fort Myers area. So I went to school for that, but I had various different jobs all the way up until we got into the medical field. My brother was also in the medical field as well. He did like some CNA, nursing, things like that. And after she went to Miami, she went to school for aesthetics. She came back and she said, "Listen, I want to open up a med spa." So we said, "Okay, let's figure out what we need to do." And we all just kind of put our heads together and made it happen in Ponte Beach, Florida.
Awesome. That's amazing. Well, looking back, I mean, partnering up with family, what was kind of the biggest challenges, and wins as an operator?
So some of the early challenges was you kind of there's so many different services, so many different procedures and therapies, right? So kind of narrowing down what we wanted to do, and scaling up was kind of, that wasn't how we thought about it. That wasn't the approach that we took. We kind of just kind of, went all the way in, got a bunch of different lasers, got a bunch of different, different techniques, different procedures, and, regular brick and mortar. And it took a little time to kind of get to that even point, to get to that point where you're really turning a profit, because you still have to establish clientele. You got to figure out what marketing techniques work with your demographics. So it was a learning curve. So that was one of the biggest challenges, was, learning how to hit that reset button and then scale up, to gradually build growth instead of just jumping all in, at one time.
Absolutely. I know. It takes years to kind of get to the groove of things, so that's awesome. And you guys are still sustainable in Florida and up and running. And now you've kind of integrated a new feature to your med spa and helping other people's med spas get into this. Can you share a little bit of personal health experience that introduced you to this new patch technology?
Sure, sure, sure. Absolutely. So about, I want to say 2 years ago, um, I had a torn rotator cuff. I actually had scheduled surgery. About a week before, I had this, what seems to be like now a miraculous interaction, right? This woman comes into our med spa and she asked is anybody here experiencing any significant pain? And, I raised the arm that I can raise, right? Because a week before she came to the spa, I scheduled surgery. And I told her, I said, I've got surgery scheduled in 90 days. I've got a torn rotator cuff, and I haven't been able to lift my arm above my head in probably about a month or so. And I told her, I said I was apprehensive to have surgery because I had never had surgery before, right? So it was something that I had put off for quite some time. But once I was unable to use my shoulder, I said, what the heck, I might as well just go ahead and schedule this thing. So I scheduled it. And that's what I told her. And she said, okay. And so moments later, she pulls out these 3 patches, and 2 of them she puts on my shoulder. This is actually what some of them look like. The ones she put on my shoulder, nothing fancy, right? It looked like somebody hole punched a piece of gauze, stuck it in between 2 clear stickers. She took the tan one, put it on the front of my shoulder, took the white one, put on the back, and literally, I want to say maybe within a few blinks, I was able to lift my arm above my head immediately, right? Which blew me away because before she put these on, she asked me, what are your pain levels at? What are you on a scale from 1 to 10? What are you at? And I stayed at about a constant 8, 8.5, right? On a regular day basis. And so that's what I told her. So it took my pain level from a constant 8 to like a 2 immediately. And so that blew me away, right, naturally, because I had been doing everything. I was doing cryoskin treatments. I was doing red light therapy. I was doing biofreeze. I was taking Excedrin every hour. Nothing was working, right? So I asked her, what'd you do to me, right? What'd you do to my shoulder? She said, this is a 2-patch system called Ice Wave. And what it does is it blocks the pain receptors in your tissue. It acts like a Band-Aid for pain. She said, most people think that pain is in the injury itself, but it's not. It's in the connective tissue. And if you block those pain receptors, you can get some relief. She said, but that's temporary. She said that you'll wear that for 12 hours and then you'll take that off. And then, gradually that pain will come back depending on how severe the injury is. She said, but that's not going to actually fix what's going on with your shoulder. And she said, this other one is called the X39. And that's actually what I'm wearing right now. And again, she said that white part in the middle is a crystal lattice. It's comprised of organic material, sugar, water, amino acid, salt, oxygen, basic properties that make up a crystal, nothing fancy. She said, what is fancy is the pattern. That's the patented technology. She said, our bodies emit body heat, right? We know that. If you were to put on night vision goggles, the whole reason why you can see through walls is because of that body heat, right? She said, well, with that body heat comes a low-level infrared light. You can't see it with naked eye, but if you have the right thermonuclear technology, you can actually see these different light waves emit off the human body. She said, that infrared light that our body emits reflects off this crystal lattice like a mirror. It transmits your own infrared light back into your body at a specific frequency. See, that frequency targets a copper peptide we produce called GHKCU. She said 50 years ago, a scientist named Dr. Lauren Picard discovered connection between this particular peptide and stem cell production. She said, what do you know about stem cells? And I said, you know, I know they're expensive. I know that,
Yes.
stem procedures can get very costly. I said, because I got quoted 30 grand for a stem cell injection in my knees like 4 years ago, right? The doctor said it would be 7 grand per injection. He said, there's a 50% chance it's going to work because I'm getting some else's stem cells. And he said, the older that I am, the less likely it is that those stem cells are going to take. That's why, I got to come back and have it done again in 6 months. And I was like, I'm not going to spend 30 grand, take 30 grand on my family's mouth on a 50% chance. And I don't need to play basketball anymore. I can walk, right? I'm fine. I said, the other thing I know about, right? I said, the other thing I know about stem cells is some of the procedures are controversial, right? That's why some people have to go outside the country to have them done. Panama, Mexico, right? She said, you're exactly right. She said, most people don't know this, but we have all the same stem cells that we were born with, right? She said, just like fat cells. The difference between being big or small is whether those fat cells shrink or expand. She said, with stem cells, after 30, half of our stem cells go dormant. She said, it's like clockwork. That's why we noticed significant changes in our age around that time frame, right? She said energy levels change, right? Sleep quality changes. Hair starts to thin. Some people start to go gray, right? She said if you injure yourself at 30, 35, it takes a lot longer to heal as opposed to when you were 18, 19. She said,
Oh, don't I know
after,
it?
right, you wake up with aches and pains that you didn't know you had, right? It's just, you know, inevitable. She said after 60, 80 to 90% of our stem cells go dormant. She said that's why, depending on how well somebody's taking care of themselves, if they're not taking, you know, uh, um, if they're not doing stuff like, stuff that we do at the med spa or different drips or, peptide injections, if they're not taking care of themselves, or if their genetic makeup is, you know, a little questionable, for a lot of people, it's just downhill from there, right? There's so much more to developing, you're so much more susceptible to developing debilitating diseases, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
high cholesterol, diabetes, right? All these things just pile up. For a lot of people, it's just downhill from there. She said what this patch does is it naturally wakes up those dormant stem cells. And because stem cells are the only cells in your body that are changeable, once your body recognizes you have this influx of stem cell activity, it'll start dispatching them throughout your entire body. And it'll start repairing things at a cellular level based off of whatever your body deems is most important, right? She said your body will prioritize survival. It'll
Yeah.
triage itself. She said, I want you to consider trying them for the next 90 days because you've got surgery scheduled, right? What do you have to lose? And so I said, okay, sure. So I said, how much? And, that's when I kind of expected for her to tell me something astronomical like the other doctor tried to. She said, you can get a 30-day supply for $100, right? So I spent like $330. That included 3 different patches, but that included shipping and tax. And I want to say I started wearing them, and 2 months in, I canceled the surgery. I haven't been back to the doctor since, right? And so, from that moment,
Incredible.
right, it was crazy. It was crazy. And so, from that moment on, I started implementing these into our med spa as an extension of everything that we offer, right? One of the things that I learned, I was a personal banker years ago, and this was actually like Wachovia, Wells Fargo area, right? When they were making that transition. And one of the things that they taught us was you want to have sticky products, right? And at the time I was like, what are sticky products and what are products that we offer at the bank, right? And they said, well, we offer things like a debit card, a checking account, a savings account. She said, but it's easy for people to shut down an account and go to another bank, right? They said, what you want to do is the more products that you get your clients on or that have them immersed in, like a line of credit, a home equity line on their business, a home equity line on their home. The more that you get them in these accounts, get their children accounts, get their children's savings accounts, it makes it harder for them to leave, right? It's called sticky products. So I said, this is one of those type of products that we can add as an extension of what we're already offering, right? Because what we found was we'll do aesthetic laser procedures, aggressive lasers, right? We do Fraxel, we do microdermabrasion, we do plasma pen. What are we doing? We're damaging the skin at a certain level. We're tricking the skin into building collagen, and it's getting rid of wrinkles, right? It's great for anti-aging treatment, and it's great for business. We sell 6 to 7 different treatments, but there's a downtime, right? 2
Yeah.
weeks, your face is super red, it's peeling. You almost have to schedule vacation just to do a procedures like this, right? Well,
We all know about that.
right. It's just nature of the beast, right? Well, when we started pairing the stem cell activation patches with these particular treatments, it cut the recovery time down in half, sometimes 5 days, right? Because what is it doing? It's accelerating that healing process. Non-transdermal, non-invasive. There's no chemical substance on the patch whatsoever that gets absorbed to the skin. And it's based off of the exact same science that enables our body to convert sunlight into vitamin D, right? We don't get vitamin D from the sun. We get light waves from the sun, and our body converts that into vitamin D. The process is called phototherapy, light therapy. Well, we're able to get immediate results because there's nothing faster than the speed of light, right? So there's immediate changes internally, just at a minute level, at a cellular level. So what we did was we started putting people on the patches a month prior to one of these procedures, and then 3 months after. And, they were coming back saying, hey, listen, I know I got on this for accelerating the healing process, which it did, but now I'm off my high blood pressure medication. Now I'm off my diabetic medication, right? Now I gave my mom some of these patches who has dementia, and she's in an assisted living facility, and now she's remembering, and she's got a house up the street and she wants to come home, right? So it really, really changed our approach. And we started, kind of immersing ourselves a little bit more in the technology, the different case studies, and what all the possibilities were. And it was like, stepping into a new dimension.
Absolutely. I mean, that is just literally reshaping, your entire perspective on aesthetics and adding in wellness. Not just for your laser patients, but kind of went way above and beyond. And I've definitely dove into the science behind it, and the before and afters, and the results that people are, coming up with, and it's incredible. And I know that introducing it into practices for their patients is, a big pull for you. How did you kind of start introducing them into other med spas, and what does that kind of acquisition look like?
So really, it really just consists of, just introducing them to it. Everybody's looking for the latest, the greatest, the next, big thing. Um, and we're all, the market is saturated, right? I mean, you can throw a rock on any corner and hit either an esthetician or a med spa, right? It's just the reality. And we all offer the exact same thing. So the market essentially is oversaturated. But what's great is, um it's starting to make a transition. People are a lot more interested in the, holistic wellness approach. People don't want to just look better, they want to feel better too, right? So
100%.
the it it kind of made me think, hey, the way that I implemented this into our practice, with our estheticians, our entire staff, even everybody from the receptionist, and to our marketing team, is utilizing this as an added layer to what they do, right? So, um, what's great is my most recent esthetician, she's probably been there for about 6 months. She's probably making about $1,600 a week off the patches alone, right? And that's not even being paid out of my payroll. That's being paid directly to her from the company. And then they cut us a thank you check because I enrolled them as distributors, right? Because we have 10 years worth of volume coming through the med spa of clients. So we just round robin the clients, and based off of how the bonus structures are. So my estheticians make an hourly base. They make a incentive on upselling different procedures, right, and treatments. And now we've added this as another layer of revenue, right? So and it just kicks up from the bottom. So when I understood how this process worked, with our particular practice, I'm probably doing about 20 to 25 grand a week, off the patches alone, right? And that's not a cap. There's no cap for my estheticians, the office manager, the receptionist, the marketers. Everybody can get to that point as well. And so when I saw this type of opportunity for us, within our little practice, I said, this is something that everybody can incorporate, right? This is something that we can all utilize and benefit off of. All I have to do is just show you the exact same way we started implementing, right? And everybody can eat. So it gives us an opportunity to, one, diversify, right? To tap into that market, together, collectively, of holistic, bridging that gap between, holistic medicine, traditional medicine. I mean, this adds a whole nother layer, or a whole nother meaning to, med spa, right? A lot of us just use that term kind of loosely, right? We just do Botox, we just do the aesthetic stuff, right? But we can create specific protocols, based off of whatever people are going through, based off of, whatever they're dealing with. We can create specific packages and specific protocols and tackle different things. Now, they are listed as general health and wellness patches with the FDA, right? So we don't make any medical claims saying that we can cure anything in particular, right? But we do have a 20-year patent saying that it does elevate GHK. GHKCU is a peptide that anybody can Google. And if you just Google that particular peptide and stem cell production, you'll see the direct correlation, right? And, once you start kind of going through that rabbit hole, you'll see that stem cells are the repair system. And so, whatever you're trying to accomplish, that's what we tell people to research. But we ask people, do some research, share it with your practitioners, share it with your family, and see what happens. And so that's what has enabled us to really, really add a whole nother layer of meaning to med spa because of what we've been able to accomplish.
That's incredible. I mean, what kind of advice would you give someone wanting to pilot the patches for the first time in their practice?
So try them for yourself, right? Give them to your staff. Get yourself a package. When I initially ordered, I paid like $330. That included shipping and tax, and that enabled me to be a distributor from that point forward. So I had patches to use, I had patches to sample, and that's what I encourage people to try. I do these live, immediate demonstrations. People come in, I ask them, "What is your pain level at?" From a scale from 1 to 10, and we can get immediate results right there on the spot. So there's different demonstrations that you can do, and it really, really just kind of opens up the door for new clientele in areas that you just didn't expect, right? There's women's husbands that would never come in for a facial, right? But they've got back pain, right? They love to hit the golf course on the Saturday on weekends. They've got a golf tournament coming up, right? They've got other issues that they're dealing with, right? That this technology can reach. And it's really helped with referrals. It's really helped with retention. Because, everybody knows somebody that's dealing with something in particular that they love and care about, right? So how can you not share something that works if, you've had really, really good success? So it definitely helps in a lot of different areas. Yeah, and it's been pretty interesting.
Well, I can personally contest to these patches. You literally saved my pinched nerve in my neck a few weeks ago. And I am super skeptical when it's trying new things that don't make sense to me. But, after deep diving into the science behind things and seeing so many results for so many other people, I'm very thankful to be able to try that and be pain free. And then just looking for the amazing results, from these stem cell patches. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for introducing me and for giving our audience the opportunity to bring it into their med spas. How can they get a hold of you, and what's the next steps if they want to implement?
So, however we can get my information out there, my phone number, is 404-933-6967. Feel free to reach out through text messaging or phone call. That's the best way to reach me. And then, I'll send you my email address and everything like that, just so you have direct contact information in case anybody wants to reach out directly. But yeah, I offer, I don't charge to help consult or help train or educate. You know what I mean? This is something that I feel everybody should know about. Everybody should have access to. And so, feel free to reach out to anybody who's interested in bringing this on board.
That's amazing. Well, Cervantes, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you guys are super busy over there healing the world. So we just appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And make sure to get a hold of the show notes below. Check out where you can get a hold of him. And we will see you on the next episode.